COVID measures. So we're currently operating about 90% of our scheduled trips on the Vineyard Run during the weekdays, and 100% of the scheduled service on the Vineyard route for the weekends. On the Nantucket Run, we are running 100% of the scheduled trips for the vehicle ferries, but we're doing so with one of the vessels being a smaller vessel, so we're about 92% capacity versus what the original approved budget was for vehicles. The operation of the high-speed vessel, the INO, on the Nantucket route, we're running 4 out of the 5 scheduled trips, round trips, although we did just add the 5th trip on Friday nights and on Sunday nights. So this past weekend was the first weekend that we did that. We'll continue to monitor that to see whether there's a demand for that service. So this past weekend, there was enough demand for it. So. These service levels that we have, we're expecting that we'll be continuing those until through Sunday, August 9th. Then, based upon our vehicle bookings, we will be going to the full operating schedule. So that would be from August 10th through Labor Day. We have, as usual, there's pent-up demand for people to be leaving the islands come the end of the summer. So we need to transition the Woods Hole down to the Hyannis Nantucket Run, and we'll be bringing the governor in we'll be bringing the Sankaty down to the Vineyard route and bringing the motor vessel governor into service at that point. Our vessel crews continue to do an exceptional job of cleaning the vessel's interiors in between trips, during trips. They're paying attention to hard surfaces, touch points, and the like. We continue to assign additional crews to perform deeper cleaning each night on board the vessels. Terminal employees likewise have been doing an exceptional job with cleaning the terminal and keeping the terminals clean, as well as the buses. We're cleaning those on a regular basis. The capacities for our buses, we have reduced to 50% of what the rated capacity of those vehicles are. I will point out that the capacity of those of the buses is more than what generally is more than what the seats have, and even at 50% on some of the models, the capacity is 50% of the capacity is still more than the number of seats on the vehicle. The seating capacity has been reduced on the MVI now to approximately 60% to allow for social distancing. It's basically 50% of the interior plus the exterior seating. The passenger capacities on the motor vessel Woods Hole and the motor vessel Sankaty have likewise been reduced because of the social distancing requirements on those vessels. We continue our efforts to source cleaning materials and hand sanitizers, both for the dispensers and the pop-up wipes. We also continue our efforts to expedite an order for electrostatic sprayers. We have a couple that are scheduled to arrive here in the next week or so. We do have a loaner on hand that we've been utilizing on a regular basis. On the Nantucket route, we continue to suspend the driver services for automobiles and small trucks, but we did resume driving the freight trucks. But in order to do that, the driver needs to come in and fill out a wellness questionnaire, much like the one that we have our own employees utilize. The terminal workers are then provided PPEs, including steering wheel covers and seat covers, so that way, but by and large, these shippers, they're the same drivers day in and day out, very familiar with the operations. So. We continue to put information and best practices on our employee portal for the learning management system regarding anything from CDC guidance on how to differentiate between what the flu symptoms are and COVID symptoms are, to test sites, or how to deal with stress, whether it's from CDC or the Commonwealth of Mass, or other sources that we identify. We continue to have our vessel crews, before the beginning of each of their watches, be given a wellness screening by a trained medical professional. Shoreside personnel are given a wellness questionnaire, which they need to complete and provide to their supervisor in order to be given clearance to report to work, or they're sent home. This includes the terminals, the parking, the reservation office, as well as the administration staff and maintenance staff. We have placed an order for a non-contact thermal body temperature scanning system, which has been approved by the CDC and the FDA as a longer-term solution here. So that way the employees will come in, they'll have that's thermal scanning, and then if it's, it'll tell them whether it's they're okay to report to work, and if so, then they can go ahead to the time clock and punch in. Most importantly, though, we've told our employees that under no circumstances should they be coming into work if they are sick, not only for their own safety, but for the safety of their fellow crew members and for the safety of our passengers. So we're cognizant that our employees have been following that guidance, and we're appreciative of that. It has come into a couple situations where we need to mobilize quickly in order to get a crew member, but thankfully we have been able to at this point. If someone does come in that is sick, we have sent them home. There's no question about it. Sean would be remiss if I didn't point out we still have the dedicated landing page on our website for coronavirus updates, as well as to continue to check our Facebook and Twitter pages, as well as the e-news and of course the local media outlets for any new information. If anyone has any questions about that, I'll move into future considerations.
I have a question. Does any board member have a question?
No.
Okay, Bob, on the 13th of July, we put out 3 advisories to the bus, the parking lot people, the agents, the captains. Has there been any, has that helped in terms of our staff and people and how to respond? Because they're certainly not enforcement agents, but they're trying to educate and encourage behaviors. Have we had a positive response to that in terms of our ridership? Has it been effective, I guess is my question.
So I think it's been helpful to for our employees to know that we support their efforts in terms of educating people the necessity to be wearing a mask, particularly on the vessels and the buses. Obviously we don't have the ability to fine people for enforcement, so it's a difficult road that we travel there. There are instances in which there are state police on board the vessels at various times. So the crew members, if talking with the state police, they said that they'd be happy to assist us in that regard in terms of reminding people, if someone is becoming less than responsive to be providing to be wearing their masks, to remind them of that, or to have them go outside onto the weather decks of the vessels and socially distance if possible there as well. So I will admit it's a challenge. I think I've been out at the terminals and I have seen our employees wearing the mask, and mentioning to customers that they need to be wearing the mask, but unfortunately, I'm sure there's times where you know, those efforts go unnoticed. So.
Okay. Have we denied passage on our buses or on our boats to people without masks?
So for our buses, we've been providing, each of the bus has a supply of the paper masks, so that way they can provide them to customers. I think we did have that incident a month or so ago that was reported. I'm not aware of any other serious incidents along those measures, but you know, I know, you know, our bus drivers, you know, they want to have people wearing the mask for their own safety as well. So it's all around, between not only for our employees but our customers and you know, their fellow travelers. So the more that people can, you know, get that message that they need to be wearing the mask, the better.
Thank you. Moira, you raising your hand?
I am. Bob, have you instructed our bus drivers that under no circumstances do you allow anybody on the buses without a mask unless it's written documentation that there's a medical reason?
You can't ask for any documentation. If someone indicates that they have a reason not to wear it because of a medical, that's the end of the discussion. We can't ask why. It's a you know, it's part of the order that was issued by the governor. There's no ability for us to be requiring any documentation.
Wow. Okay.
All right, Bob.
Okay, so in terms of some future considerations, we do continue to monitor the schedule and what bookings we have. By and large, you know, the passengers, the traffic numbers, and we'll get into those in a minute, haven't been driving the operating schedule. It's been the vehicles, and you know, those numbers. And as I pointed out earlier, that's why we're going to be making the modification here in August to move some of the boats around to accommodate that vehicle demand. So, but you know, as we look at this, it's not just vehicle reservations. We look at the accessibility issues. We look at the social distancing requirements, and also in terms of making sure that we're able to provide, you know, in case there's a medical emergency, emergency services. So, and as I said, the revised operating schedule extends out to August 9th, and that we're about ready here to August 10th through September 9th schedule, be putting that out there. And then in terms of traffic numbers and reservation activity, I'll have Mark Rosum come up here, and he'll share with you some of his graphs as he tries to outgraph me. And
good morning, everyone. Okay, the first chart showing the reservation activity for July 12th and July 19th of 2019 compared to 2020.
you see from that it's near-term reservations that we're seeing, unlike in the past where people were much farther out in terms of making their reservations. The activity now is becoming more nearer term.
Okay, we can go to the second graph, Sean. As Bob just mentioned, this graph shows the reservations on the nearer term increasing. That you can see July, you know, from back in June 28th, we're about 85%. We're at about 96% of the prior year. We can see that trend for August going from June 28th, about 81% to 87%. September and October, they're pretty much September's remaining flat, and October we've seen a little bit of a downtick. Okay. Next graph shows the daily net reservation activity, meaning reservations made, less reservations canceled for vehicle traffic. And since you're looking at right around June, we've been in the positive trends on this chart. In the month of May, we were down 12,000 reservations compared to the year before. In June, we picked up about 7,800 of those. Okay, go to the next graph. This is showing actual traffic, vehicle traffic and passenger traffic. And as you can see, the passengers are increasing, but we're holding out around 65% right now on the shorter term. Looking at the vehicles are right around all above 85 to 90%. All three categories: passenger vehicles, small trucks, and large trucks. Okay. In the last chart is the credit card activity receipts, and you notice there's a little dip around July 5th, July 4th, and that would make sense because of the decrease in passengers around the holiday. We are seeing a trend with some more people using the cashless payment, so that's part of the increase in the payments, and part of it's also related to the catch up in the reservations that we were short in May. And I'd be more than glad to answer any questions on these graphs.
I have a Mark. With these graphs, would I be appropriate to find them leading me towards cautious optimism?
Yes, yeah, I'm in that camp right now, cautious optimism, but that could change with any set of circumstances. Yes.
Yep. Governor's orders, for example. Yeah, thank you.
Correct.
I will point out that, I've had some discussions with other ferry operators, not only in the region, but also other parts of the country. And some of those discussions are that us being about 65% of our passenger traffic and 90 to 95% of our vehicle traffic, that's actually a far better situation than a lot of other carriers are experiencing at the moment. So granted, some of those are not, they're carriers of convenience as opposed to carriers of necessity, but I think it speaks volume to the local region.
And for the through July 20th, passengers are off about 31% compared to last year. Car traffic's basically flat from last year, and truck traffic is down roughly about 5%.
Now, as the other shoe in this discussion goes, with the passengers, we're averaging just under 5,000 passengers per day fewer than what we carried a year ago. So much like what we saw there in May and June, I would expect that we're probably going to be somewhere in the area of 150,000 fewer passengers carried this month than previous years. So not small numbers. Okay, no questions for Mark. The follow up here on for the COVID. We continue to have productive bi-weekly discussions with MassDOT and the Commonwealth's Executive Office for Administration and Finance regarding our financial condition. I did want to mention some steps that were recently taken up at the State House. When the Senate was taking up a supplemental budget bill, Senator Julian Sayre, along with Senator Susan Moran and Senator Montigny, sponsored an amendment in which no assessment shall be made on the town to the represented towns as a result of cost of the disruptions caused by COVID-19 Representative Fernandez then worked with the House on this amendment, and as was just recently reported, the supplemental budget bill, including this amendment, has been forwarded to the governor's office for review and approval. So we're extremely grateful to see the progress on the amendments to the supplemental budget bill. And we again extend our thanks to our local representatives, legislative teams for their ongoing support. And we stand ready to continue the positive discussions that we've been having with Governor Baker's Office of Administration and Finance team to answer any questions that they may have on behalf of the governor as he reviews this legislation. So again, we're grateful for them working on this. I'm sure the communities are as well.
That's
Yes,
a big
indeed.
deal. That's a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's
You
great.
know,
It,
in the meantime, we do continue to monitor what's going on down in Washington, and we're working there to try to, to see what support we can be put together to for some stimulus bills that include some language regarding ferry operators. So we're hopeful on that at that end as well. So if anyone has any questions, or move on to May's business summary.
Okay,
I have
can I make a comment? I guess this sort of breathing room that we're being given here is dependent on it being characterized as the deficit emanating from the COVID response, having to deal with it because of COVID. So this presumably also has the potential for changing our business models in a long range way. So we've got to be mindful of that, because next year, if we run a deficit, it might not be because of COVID. So we've got to really be ready to be flexible with our business model going forward.
As we work on the budget, that'll be part of that process, and be a version of the budget, and then alternative versions of the budget to be prepared. But unfortunately, a lot of our expenses are, with the vessel dry dockings and other commitments that were, in some regards, were boxed in on
Yep.
some of these expenses. So.
Yep, I get that.
two things. One, to the point that Kate just brought up, I think that's a interesting and very useful discussion, and I've been thinking about that a good bit. And in some formal way, at some point, we need to be talking about that as a board, because so much of our stuff, as Bob just mentioned, is capital and vessel related, that significant changes in our business model, other than the kind of cost cutting that we have done successfully this year, would require a long-term, in my view, a long-term approach to what it is we own, what it is we do, what it is we maintain, so on and so forth. That was point one to Kate's point. Point two, I would suggest that the board, on behalf of the board, send a note of appreciation to our two state senators and our state representatives for their work on our behalf in getting this through the legislative process to the governor's desk. And I don't know whether that needs a motion or just everybody's assent. I think it would be the right thing to do, to send a note like that by the board.
Want to wait and make sure it gets fully approved?
Well, my thought was it's now on the governor's desk, and it might have some impact on the governor to have seen a letter thanking the senators and thanking from the Steamship Authority for the efforts to get it to him. but being a political novice, I'm not sure.
I can concur with that, Jim. I think it's a wise thing to do. And they have really picked up the flag and moved forward for the Steamship Authority. I haven't seen that type of response in years. So I think a letter to that effect, is certainly in order. Are you going to write it?
I'd be happy to write it and circulate. I guess I'll send it to Sean. He can circulate it to the members for edits, modifications, deletions, spelling corrections.
I only say that in jest because the last time that I suggested writing a letter to the employees, you asked me if I was going to write it, and I said that we have very capable people on our staff to articulate that. So
My ears have been burning throughout this entire conversation, so I'll be happy to help out.
Volunteer is always appreciated. Thank you.
Right.
Davis?
Yep. So next item is the business summary for the month of May. Yeah, it's been a while. So quickly, total number of passengers carried on both routes was down 68% compared to a year ago, or over 190,000 passengers. Total number of automobiles carried for both routes was down by nearly 46% versus the prior year, but over 19,000 automobiles. And our number of trucks carried on both routes for May was down 34.5%, or almost 7,000 trucks versus the prior year. And then the overall number of cars parked for both routes ended up being down just under 83% versus the prior year. So not rosy numbers by any stretch of the imagination. Through May, our passengers are down 46.5%, or just over 380,000 passengers. Automobiles are down 35%, or 51,000 cars. Trucks are down 25.5%, or 20,000 trucks. And our cars are down 61.4%, or just under 24,000 cars parked. So a net operating loss for the month of May was $878,000, and that was some 3.25 million below, higher than what we expected. We actually expected that we would have, the budget called for the month of May for us to be in the black, and we ended up being in the red by $878,000. Our operating revenues and other income of $6,243,000 was $5,403,000 lower than what we'd anticipated. Our operating expenses of $7,122,000 were $2,151,000 lower than what we had budgeted, however. The year-to-date through May, we have a loss of $22,791,000, or it's some $8,819,000 more than what we'd anticipated. Operating revenues and other income of $21,748,000 is $11,942,000 behind what we anticipated. Our operating expenses of $44,540,000 is $3,125,000 less than what we'd anticipated. So from the cash standpoint, we do, you'll see the cash balances on what we have. The receipt of the CARES Act funds has been extremely helpful in keeping those cash balances, and I don't want to take away from some of Mark's report later on. So if anyone has any questions regarding May. Not seeing any.
Yep.
We have updates on the Hotel Terminal project, so I'll ask Bill Cloutier to come up here and walk you through his slideshow.
Good morning. So
Morning.
on the first week of July, we opened up the slip for the ferry service, and everything worked fine. And then the following week, the second week, last week, we opened up the passenger loading ramp for side loading in slip 2. We're still working on the float portion of that passenger loading ramp, but now I think that probably won't get finished till late summer. Sean, are you set to go on there? I'll look at the pictures. There we go. So what you're looking at here is just we have these removable bollards that go along the pier, and this is the foundation for those bollards. The next slide. The concrete, a day later, the concrete was poured. Well, all this is in getting set up for the final paving that happened about the last week in June. Next slide. So this is a picture of the masons doing the asphalt bed for the pavers on the passenger pier. There's a coat of asphalt, and then they put some kind of sticky asphalt, and they actually vibrate the pavers into place. Next slide. That's another picture. This is the ramp, handicap ramp going up to the pier. Same look. Next slide. Okay, this is an aerial view of the site just before we did the final paving. You can see the canopy is out there. It's and everything is just about set up for paving. Next. There's another view of the pier, the aerial view of the canopy. It's quite a structure out there. It's very visible. Next. That's an aerial view of both slips, slip 3 on the right and slip 2 on the left, middle slip. Next. This is a mistake. Next. This is a view that was taken last Friday of the slip from the pier. Everything is done. Slip 2 is all set to go. Next slide. These are the final removable bollards that we were looking at earlier in the foundations. Next slide. This is just a view of from the looking up to the slip. This slip is the highest elevated slip. The slip 3 is an average of the 3 of them, and the next phase, slip 1, is going to be the lowest one. And we did that for accessibility reasons and because of the different drafts on the boat. Next slide. These are the gangways arrived middle of June for loading the passengers. They're getting ready to unload that truck. Next slide. This is the float. The bridge is out there. The gangways are out there. We need to. We're still sorting out the railing arrangement, and once we get that railing arrangement squared away, we'll open it up for use. Next slide. It's the gangway on the pier. Next slide. It's hooked up to the boat. This is the, happens to be the island home. Next slide. Passengers loading on the pier. You can see the fancy, this picture shows a good view of the guardrail that we have. It's a lighted guardrail on the passenger loading ramp, and it's all stainless steel with a stainless steel mesh in between the post. Next. This is a view of the windshield. It has when you're out there, you almost look like feel like you're on the water because of the blue pavers, and this windshield has a wave look. Next slide. I think that's the last.
Yeah, that's the last one, Bill.
Yep. Any other questions? I'll be happy to answer. Jim?
Any members, Catherine?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
I
you.
have a question.
Oh, Kate.
Bill, how do things look when there are boats tied up to the Hui dock? And have there been any, has there been any contact? Have there been any accidents? I'm hearing that there's such congestion there that our boats coming in slip 3 have difficulty, and that other people on the water are scared or concerned about the situation.
There's more space between the new slip 3 than the old slip 3. So I don't understand that.
Huh.
We're further out in the water, but there's more space.
Right.
We're further south. You know, we're further west and south. So
Yeah, but we extend further out into the water, right?
right. Yes. We're
So
about,
when people are waiting to get into Eel Pond, what's happening there?
If I may.
So when people are waiting for the Eel Pond Bridge, go ahead, sorry.
Yep. So this was something that had come up during our Chapter 91 license in terms of where the vessels end up congregating to be going into Eel Pond because we didn't use slip 3 as an operational slip before. They tended to come farther in than they need to now because of the arrangements of the slips. You know, the captains are cognizant of that. I mean, there's times, you know, now that we have slip 2 open with only the 4 boats scheduled, they are tending to use slips 1 and 2 more than slip 3, but there are times that they still use slip 3. But it's again, it's the congregation as the people come in time for the opening of the drawbridge and that. So we're also cognizant of the project that the Oceanographic is going to be having there with their terminal, their facility renewal. So try to work with them as well.
Thanks.
any other questions?
Yeah, Malcolm, question for you, Bill. Thank you for the presentation. Can you update myself and the members? Where are we now with this project in terms of dates to completion and cost issues to completion?
So as far as schedule goes, I'm hoping to be on track. I'm a little behind with the North Bulkhead, which I'm going to try to get going this summer. But we're expecting to start remobilize in slip 1 on September 9th, as soon as the 5th boat leaves the terminal. And, you know, Cashman is planning to complete the phase 4 and complete the contract by, you know, middle of May next year. Cost-wise,
There's about 16 million left on that contract. There was a couple, so on one of the slides that you know, Bill was showing earlier, it showed the gallows there for slip 2 in the fender system. So There's going to be, we're aware of a couple change orders that will be coming to the board here. One of them is after we built slip 3 and the Sankaty came in, it was determined that these iPads and the U-bolts and the chains for the fender systems weren't sufficient for the impact that some of these vessels have on different tide conditions. So the engineers went back and reviewed those calculations and ended up having a upgrade to the size of the chains, the strength of those chains. However, when that change was made, the weight of those chains became such that they had to be using the ringer crane in order to get the chains in positions because they couldn't do it with the smaller crane. So we're going to have, there's going to be a change order coming for that, and anticipate that'll be north of $100,000 at this time. But we'll get that finalized here for the next meeting. There's a couple other things. Bill mentioned the bulkhead to the north, so that's a change in the design and the scope of that project because of the obstructions that they encountered while trying to do the sheet pile there. So we're working on what that's going to end up costing, and we'll be bringing that back to the board, as well as to what once we get some firmer estimates as to what that's going to be.
I hope to have that in early August or late July, early August. Cashman's working on it.
Mr. Jones?
I've got a quick question. The 16 million that you say is left now, is that all out of the bond? Or is that capital funds?
Yeah, so primarily, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but most of it is from those bonds that we issued earlier. Some of it we had anticipated using funds from the replacement fund. So we'll be looking as we go along here and update the progress. The plan had been that there'd be a portion of this would still be doing from internally generated funds, and the question as to whether we're going to be we don't anticipate that we'll be generating those funds this year. So we'll have to go back and revisit, in order to at least get that marine portion of the shoreside portion of the project completed, what we'll have to do there.
Looks like we're going to have to go for more than the waterfront, and with the terminal, we're going to have to put them all together and see where we're at.
I think at this point, the focus has been on the shore side to let's get that portion of the project done, and we'll have a clearer understanding as we move along here what funds we have available for in the replacement funds to support the completion of this project. So
may I piggyback on that 1 sec? As I had talked with you, Bob, earlier, at our next meeting, I would like to discuss with the board the issue of the terminal building, where we are, where we're going, and try and get a decision made on that so that we can put that to bed one way or the other if possible. So we put that on the agenda for the next meeting, please. Catherine?
Ditto.
Oh.
we anticipated having the review of the BIA Studios billing completed, the analysis done, and be able to provide that to the members at the next meeting, at the August meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next, Anderson to come up here and give you an update as to the status of the motor vessel containment dry dock.
Good morning, everyone. The container is at Thames Shipyard, presently undergoing a dry dock period for underwater works and structural steel and coating preservation. Got a couple photos. A photo that you see previously was she was completely sandblasted in preparation for coatings. The current photograph here is a piece of structural steel. It's approximately 5 feet by 8 feet long. This is a result of our thickness gauging for life assessment and also for Coast Guard requirements. And we continue to do multiple sections. John, next picture. This is an underwater section on the starboard side aft near a keel cooler, which we identified in our steel gauging that required steel part crop and renewal. And this is a picture of a cutlass bearing. Not sure why that wooden hammer is right there in the middle of it, but it's this has been renewed throughout both of the shafts and also the struts. This is just a picture of when it went initially into dry dock. It shows the port propeller and port rudder and side profile of the underwater area. So the present cost analysis for the container, where the contract items total $788,507. We've identified one additional auxiliary generator, which we're overhauling at the present time for $44,677, and that is a grand total of the change orders $833,184. So that's the situation with the container. Any questions for anyone?
I just have a curiosity question, Mark. In overhauling the generator, are you overhauling the engine? Are you overhauling the windings and stuff like that in the generator?
Actually, we're overhauling the prime mover on one of the generators and the electrical alternators on both of the generators. We continue to look at critical equipment if the auxiliary power generation is getting ready for our ISM or quality management system audit of next year.
Are those bolt-on items?
Yes, we unbolt them, uncouple them, and we remove them from the ship. They take the alternators out and they clean them and they re-dip them and reinstall them.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
So next item is update on the HMS. Taking us off the agenda for a couple months here now with the with COVID. But one of the things that we had been the element of the HMS report that we've been working on was the implementation of an SQMS. So we realized that at this point that we're going to be having to continue to deal with COVID on an ongoing basis here until there's some cure or a vaccine, and we didn't want to lose all the momentum that we had generated earlier with the development of the SQMS. So we reached out and we had discussions with Safety Management Systems LLC. Bill Mahoney is the managing director, and the staff is looking at it that we are going to restart this program here. There's going to be some changing in it, in that it's going to have to extend the timeline of the project because we've lost 4 months now. We also have an issue in terms of the next phase of this being is that to roll a portion of this out, and there's going to have to be training that we're going to need to be doing with our crews and personnel, and we're going to have to probably can't be as aggressive in terms of getting as many people together to be doing that training and the like. But the plan is to get this going and get this back on track. I think the project plan will end up being extended for 11 months, as opposed to we're looking at having it completed and audited next year, and we're going to be looking at the end of the year now at this point. So, but I think it's an important enough project that we don't want to lose all the momentum that we had started with this, and I think in the long run it's beneficial to the organization. So we're going ahead, going to be restarting this effort. So the strategic planning portion of the project remains on hold. We'll be looking at a later date to be addressing that. We continue to for our engineering resources, and we'll be looking at the organizational structure internally. And later on in the fall, we'll be coming back with recommendations for the board to consider. So.
Mr. Jones.
Yes, who is actually authoring this SQMS study?
Who is it?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, so
I said, who is authoring? Who is organized this thing? This SQMS study. I mean, is that collective within the authority? Consultants or whom?
Yeah, so the contract was awarded to Safety Management Systems. They're based out in Portland, Maine. They've done this for a number of other ferry operators and shippers, not only ferry operators but also shipping firms. So they've been. There was a period of time there where they were requesting documents and documentation on what we have and what we do. Now taken that portion of the information, they've gone back and have been preparing at a loss for the term at the moment here. Vessel operating, sorry, vessel, yeah. VOP. The vessel, yeah. VOM, excuse me. Yeah, VOM, vessel operating manuals, sorry.
Okay. Not like you don't have enough to do.
Because senior moment there, sorry. So they were close to completing those efforts. The next step would be to be taking those and going to with vessels on board the vessel, vessel personnel primarily, and going through those and what training needs to be done, and there'll be a train-the-trainer aspects of this as well. But again, it's a step that I think is necessary to make sure that we're following best practices. We're going to be at some point here, the Coast Guard is going to be requiring this of all operators anyway, so we're going to be ahead of the game in that regard. So.
Thank you, Bob. I thought perhaps that was the SMS study, but in any event, I hope when we're through with all of these studies and things that these are available online and in our tablets, so that if we as a board want to access them, and of course, if you put them online on the website, they'll be available outside of that. But I'm finding more information on our website than I'm finding on my tablet. So in any event, that would be my suggestion and hope.
That'd be a big help.
Mm,
We'll have discussions whether it's at one of the meetings, whether we can give you a demo of what, a sample of what, what the vessel crews will be seeing and things like that. So I'll put that on the list.
Yeah, terrific. I really want to know what they're doing, what subject matter they're assessing, et cetera, just to be a little bit more informed. Amen.
Okay, so if
Yeah.
there's no other questions in that regard, the next item is the proposed Nantucket winter, spring, summer, and fall at Martha's Vineyard winter and spring 2021 operating schedules. This past April, we placed advertisements regarding our proposed 2021 operating schedules for both islands for the entire year. As you're aware, at the end of May, we received a petition from 58 Falmouth residents requesting a hearing regarding the 5:30 trip in the summer schedule. We've held that hearing. We're still working on preparing the report from that hearing. But it became clear that there was no public comments regarding the Nantucket schedules for 2021, nor were there any comments related to the winter and spring schedules for the Vineyard route. And as we need to start doing the bookings for the bulk shippers for the winter and spring schedule, we're asking that the board approve the proposed 2021 winter and spring operating schedules for the Vineyard route and the 2021 winter, spring, summer, and fall operating schedules for the Nantucket route. The Port Council at their meeting on July 1st recommended that the 2021 Nantucket winter, spring, summer, and fall and Martha's Vineyard winter and spring operating schedules be adopted as proposed.
Do any members have any questions or comments?
And Mr. Chairman, I will. I have no comments on the particular article before us. At the end of the meeting, at an appropriate time, I've got a couple of comments that I'd like to bring up about the proposals and the hearings and things of this nature. But we'll wait to get through our agenda to something that is not pertinent to the decision that is before us. So I would make a motion then, if that's the case, that we approve the schedule, summer, winter, spring schedules for Nantucket and the Vineyard, excluding the exclusion that management has excluded from the motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion by any of the members? Okay, I have one discussion point, which is I've spent, since the Port Council meeting on the 1st of July, I have gone back and read virtually everything I can find on this subject from 1995 onward, so as to get up to speed with the rest of you. And what I've seen is there's been little to no change in the position of the people on one side of this issue and people on the other side of this issue. And I note from attending the recent Zoom meeting from the people who were concerned about the schedule, that the positions seem to stay the same. And I'm comfortable with supporting the motion that's been made and seconded to go forward. But I think when we get there, we're going to find that we're pretty much in the same place. There are a number of things that are scheduled to be discussed in these working groups and task forces that we've set up. And I'm sure there is some commonality of interest between the communities, but I don't see where further delay is really going to change the positions of the people impacted by that 5:30 vote one way or the other. However, having said that, we now come to a vote on this. There's a motion made and seconded to accept the recommendations of management. All in favor, please.
Jones, aye.
Tierney, aye.
Wilson, I.
Any aye.
Malkin, aye.
Thank you. Next, we have an update on the high-speed ticket book sales. I don't know whether Sean wants me to do it or whether he wants to.
I got it. Good morning, everybody. So just to update you on the high-speed passenger ticket book promotion, as you would probably remember, although this is pre-COVID, so it's 5 years ago, it seems like at this point, but in the February 18th meeting, the board approved the annual 20% discount sale on the electronic passenger ticket books for the high-speed ferry during a period of March 23rd to April 5th, which was to coincide with the start of the MV INO's return to service. You may also have heard a little something about COVID-19 and the delay of the return to service by the IANO. So we did have that sale, but it was lower than normal ticket sales. And of course, the boat was delayed in its return. So at your April 28th meeting, staff recommended and you approved authorizing the general manager to reopen the sale for approximately 2 weeks once we did bring the vessel back to full-time service. That sale resumed to June 8th to June 21st of this year to coincide with the boat's return on June 17th. During that second round of the sale, we sold an additional 997 ticket books, which brought our total for the year to 2,407. That is below the average of 3,200 roughly, but we did increase our sales this year by 71%. And that second round of the sale generated an additional revenue of about $475,000 for the authority. Overall, the cost of that regarding the discount was $118,000 due to that discount, but we've long believed that the sale of the books is a good way to promote brand loyalty to the service of the INO, since we do have competition on that route, and it's well received by commuters and by island residents alike. So we continue to believe that to be a good investment on our part. So we did, the second round did have its intended effect in that we were able to get some more sales out there and give people a second chance to do it, whereas they might not have been comfortable or might not have been thinking about it the first time around because of the onset of the COVID pandemic. So happy to answer any questions if anyone has any. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Do you need anything here, Robert?
No, that was for informational purposes only.
Thank you.
So next item is the proposed feasibility study for solar panels at our Thomas B. Landis parking lot. So I just want to advise the members of our initiation of the feasibility study for a project at that facility. When we completed the project back in June of 2015, we've been approached periodically from companies that have expressed interest in putting solar energy to generate some solar energy generation at that facility. So most recently, there was a group that came to us late in the fall, wanting to know whether we're interested. So we went back and with the procurement officer, we went to look to see what other state and towns have done in the Commonwealth regarding requests for proposals or contracts for these type of services. It was noted that there is a provision in the Mass General Law which doesn't require us to go out for a request for proposal on this, but we do feel it's a, ultimately it'll be a more open and more transparent process by doing that. But the first step is just to determine whether it's feasible, what sort of energy could be generated there, what are the barriers and the hurdles that will need to be going through, whether the grid is able to take whatever energy is generated there. So one of the things we did find was that there's a firm out there that specializes, one of their divisions specializes in working with governmental agencies. They did the project for the MBTA. They're doing it for the Washington Metro system, Washington DC Metro, as well as other projects in which they would come in and do due diligence in terms of a feasibility as to what that facility might be able to generate, and give us a sense as to also what sort of income stream that this might be able to generate. So, and as part of that, the state earlier this year unveiled emergency revisions that double the capacity of the state incentive programs designed to spur small, medium-scale solar projects in the Commonwealth. So at this point, there's some additional incentives for companies to be able to put projects in. So it's under the Solar Massachusetts Renewable Target Program, known as SMART. So we're thinking that this might be a good time to go out there, because before those credits expire. So this is for informational purposes, because the feasibility study was $50,000. We're hesitant to do this earlier because of the cost, but we have to look at these as a long range thing. And if we're able to generate a new income stream by putting in solar canopies at that facility, or potentially others as we go down the road here, not only is it helping us become a greener company, but also will hopefully provide us some needed income.
Any discussion, any questions, comments? Mr. Jones?
Yeah, solar panels are certainly a popular thing, and certainly can be a money maker for us. But I was curious at what you said, that the state is offering some incentives. Usually the incentives, the federal government offered a 30% incentive for years, and I think that's still active, but I'm not sure. But the incentives are only available to private homeowners and companies and things like that. They're not available to nonprofit organizations. So what happens with a nonprofit is that some contractor comes in and makes an agreement with the nonprofit and to put up and solar panels where they take the 30% incentive for themselves, and then they just strictly negotiate a buy-sell agreement for the electricity and the rates and things like that. That's all done through negotiations. Usually some of these companies come in and they'll take the 30% and they'll offer a reduced rate on electricity, it's not taking all your electricity. Usually it's sold to the grid and then come back by usage. And they'll hold on to it for 10 years, and then they'll offer you an opportunity to purchase the whole system. And the system usually works about 20 years. They degrade annually, depreciate annually as to their effective output. So what may be putting, let's say 1,000 kilowatts out, today, tomorrow, it might be much less. But beating around Robin Hood's barn here, that I would say if we're going to do this, that we should hire a contractor or a consultant who will evaluate this and evaluate the amount of energy that this will produce and what kind of a return we'll have. And as I say, unless there's something different here with the governor's incentives, I'd like to know more about that. But it usually goes to those companies and things, or it does not go to nonprofits. So I did this on a couple of things, a church that I belong to, which has a huge building, and also a Cape Cod Maritime Museum. And so I'm familiar with it. As I usually say, I'm not an expert, but I'm knowledgeable. So I think it's a good place that we can do it. The world is looking for renewable energy, and maybe by the time we're through of what we earn on that, we can put into an electric vessel. Wouldn't that be fun? So that's enough said. Just an FYI.
Muted.
Mara, is that your hand up?
Nope.
Okay. Okay.
Dang. It looks like it is. And my hand's up, but I'm not asking a question. How about that?
No, it's not bad at all. Thank you. Bob, do you need anything from us, or is this for our information?
This again was for information purposes. It falls into the threshold for the board action. And again, once we get this feasibility study done, we'll be coming back to the board and discussing what the next step, if there is going to be a next step on this project. But we want to just be open regarding this, and in terms of our intent. If we assume that that site will be enough to generate interest on behalf of companies to want to lease the overhead for this, and so therefore we'll be looking to do it as an open as possible process.
So my question then is, has the board in the past moved to have the authority explore electric solar generation?
It hasn't been. I think there was I'd have to go back and check previous goals. I think there was a goal that we had in terms of keeping exploring alternative energy and to fuel efficiency and the like. So I think it's covered under that.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, you had your hand up, and Ms. Wilson next.
I just curious, Bob, is what do you think that consultant is going to charge us?
Well, to do the feasibility study, it's $50,000. And then depending upon the scope of the project, it'd be, assuming the feasibility comes back that this is a viable project, there'd be another rate for them to assist us in preparing and evaluating requests for proposals. And they also offer construction management services as well. So we'd have to look at what those fees are and, where we want to go on that. But again, I think from the sense is that this, the overall project is, not only good for the environment, but I think it'd be good, in terms of a good revenue stream here for us. So we're hopeful.
Well, is this, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
This is just kind of an open discussion here, but what would be the considerations of putting an RFP or an invitation to bid and getting the all of that work done by the contractor? Now we know eventually it's going to have to come by that anyways. I've dealt with the contractor. We never had any consultants or anything like that, but you can ask them all the pertinent questions and you don't have to stay with one person. Anybody who's interested in making a proposal to us will come out with their own game plan. So I don't know, it's just a thought process. We seem to pay a lot of money for consultants. They're $50,000 and then $8,000 and a tag of overseeing and things like that. They're setting themselves up pretty good. Which one thing, we don't want to make any mistakes, but on the other hand, the people that are doing this on a daily basis, they know the answers to all these questions. So I just throw that in for management's head scratching and let them take it from there.
Okay, Catherine?
I think that that's important, Bob. The Jones, they're brokers, right? So they'll be doing a feasibility study and then also hoping to be a broker to find the right company for us to work with. And so you'd want to be careful about whether by engaging them as a broker, do we then close off our opportunities to engage with companies outside of this particular broker's group? You know what I'm saying? Like when you deal with a real estate broker, then you're bound by a certain period of time.
And that's why, even though the Mass General Law exempts these projects from going out, having to go out with an RFP, our thoughts are that we want to do it as an RFP process,
Yeah.
To have as open as possible of a field and be as as transparent as possible on this project. So
Good.
One thing I could add, and then I think that's it, is it might make sense to find out what permitting hoops we need to go through with the town in regards to installing solar.
that's part of the feasibility study, that they'll be identifying what needs to be done. And I mean, is you have to get on the list for with the grid to be able to supply that energy to the grid. And
I'm talking about local zoning and or other restrictions that might, for example, preclude putting solar in certain areas. And if that's the case, I'd like to find that out sooner before we start spending money if it's prohibited. That was my
point. I will point out that the town has their own solar projects. Phase 1 is already installed over their landfill, and they just awarded phase 2, I believe. So.
Okay, thank you. Anything further on this point? Mr. Davis.
Okay. Terrence is, if he wants to help here. So next item we have is to update the medical travel policy. Back in May, we ended up having an island resident, which had failed to receive preferential boarding for a vehicle because as you read the policy, since the the person requiring the services wasn't actually in the vehicle, it became a problem. They ended up seeking alternative transportation to it. So we went back and we looked at the transportation policy that we have, and we think that there's some adjustments that need to be made to it, specifically to add that instead of just individuals who are traveling for medical reasons, but to add or their immediate family members or caregivers who are responsible for transporting them off island or on island. For example, traveling off island for the purpose of returning the individual to his or her island-based place of residence from a medical facility. So we feel that if we make that adjustment to this policy, it will improve the policy and be able to provide, it's stressful times when people are dealing with loved ones that are have medical conditions, and I think this will go a long way to alleviate some of those concerns.
Do you need a vote?
Yes. I should point out the Port Council at their meeting earlier this month voted to recommend approval.
Right. That's correct. Any discussion from any? Go ahead, sorry.
I'd move we, I move that we amend what are these in our,
Medical travel policy?
yeah, whatever, yeah, thank you. To incorporate the words that have been inserted. And I might add that I thought the wording was very good. They covered the thing, and I thought it was well written. So just so you know, put an extra feather in your cap for that. So I would move the approval.
I second it.
We have a motion made and seconded. Any discussion from any members? Hearing none, it comes to a vote. All in favor?
Wilson, I.
Jones,
Any aye.
Manny, aye.
Malkin, aye. Thank you very much.
Thank
You have
you.
your vote, Mr. Davis.
And one more item under my report, and sorry for the lateness of this. It's proposed modifications to the contract for the agreement with Centerplate, which provides the concession services on board our vessels and our facilities and the vending. So the staff had been back in March when COVID hit. The lunch counters were shut down on board the vessels. For it, we've had ongoing discussions with Centerplate, and I think I see someone from Centerplate online if they want to add anything. But the basis of this is that the contract that we have with Centerplate, which just for history purposes, they've been our concessionaire since 1993. They're a large international firm. They started as a Boston Concessions Group, and then grew into Boston Culinary Group, and then into Centerplate, and now into Centerplate, Boston Culinary Group doing business as Centerplate, and they're part of Sodexo. So part of their contract includes under Article 21, it includes a minimum guaranteed fee. In 2020, that fee is $720,000. The fees, each contract as we've gone along has had a minimum guarantee. I'm not aware of any year in which the firm did not had to adjust their payment up to the minimum guarantee. That's generally been above the minimum guarantee. But in light of the the widespread pandemic because of COVID and because of the suspending the food service on board the vessels in response to the governor's executive orders, we'd be looking to waive that provision of the contract. They've also proposed that the concession fees that they're looking for, it's a sliding scale based on, so vending, it's a little higher percentage than non-vending. Alcohol sales have a different percentage, but at this point, although we've had discussions with Centerplate, we're not prepared to open up the lunch counters on board the vessels. We feel it's for our operations in particular to be, insisting that people wear masks on board. It sends a mixed message if we were to say wear mask on board unless you go and buy some food from our lunch counter and then you can take your mask down. I think it just sends a bad message. So we haven't provide them a date yet at this point on when we may change that perspective as we move along in the different stages, but currently that's been our position. They also were looking for, one of the things is they're seeing with their other clients, and this is a company that deals with, they also have the contract at Washington State Ferries. They have numerous sporting venues, stadiums, concert halls, movie theaters, water parks, and the like. So they've been dealing with this across the country and and internationally in terms of it. And what they're also were asking is that in lieu of this, that the contract be extended for 1 year in light of this kind of being a lost year. We have not had anyone bid other than Centerplate on this contract for at least the past 15 years when I went back and looked. So, they do exceptional job in terms of having people on board the vessels, having supplies on board the vessels, and I think in terms of this, that was a reasonable request as well. Part of it is that the contract does provide the authority, the ability to purchase any of their equipment at the completion of their contract at depreciated value. We don't see this as a big item because at this point, most of the equipment probably is fully depreciated, but they just want to suspend this depreciation schedule for a year on this. And we don't see that as any sort of hurdle. So although we've indefinitely suspended the concession services on board the ferries, the Centerplate did want to the members to consider the potential for reopening the concession services at some point here in the near future. As part of that, what they're proposing is that if we were to do so, that it would be on the basis that we would have all the profits, but we would also have to share in any losses. This one item, I think we, at this point, how we address that. I think these other items, in particular, the annual guarantee is something that should be addressed at this point. And we can have further discussions as we move along here, because this is it's not written in stone when we will be opening up. So I think this one item we can address later. So.
Mr. Jones.
First of all, I'm getting another conversation going on in here from somewhere. Can anybody else hear that, or am I the only person here?
No, I hear it too. It's hard to focus on the speaker because of where it's coming from. I don't know where it's coming from.
Let me mute myself. There's someone talking in another room and see if that makes a difference.
Aha.
There it is.
All right. Thank you. Bob, I think a reasonable request. I would say that I'm willing to forego the minimum, but if they open up, I don't want to be part and parcel to their success or failure. That's a business decision whether they open up or not. So that ending comment that I wouldn't be in favor of the authority picking up any losses they might have. But saying that, how does this, the same philosophy overlap with any of our other licensees? I mean, it's basically the same argument. It could be the same argument. And so when we vote on this, you know, it's somewhat of a precedent. We have other licensees that may come forth with the same, you know, type of request.
Yep.
So how we handle this may
This
have
is,
longer. Oh,
sorry. This is the only, the concession license, this is the only item that we have, well, this and the rental car agencies are the only two contracts that we have that have a minimum guarantee provision in them. The rest are all based on, you know, for our licensees, it's all based on ridership numbers and the like. So it's a different situation on this. This is also a situation in which we've you know, told Centerplate that, you know, they can't go back onto the vessels. They can't be on the vessels. So it's something of our doing as opposed to something of, you know, a decision that, you know, an operator may be evaluating as to whether to operate or not. So it's a little different animal.
okay, thank you for that explanation.
Catherine?
I think that the first two, you know, the concession fee and the commission fee make sense because we've had to tell them to stop doing business. With the extension of the term, we've got almost 2.5 years remaining on the term. I'm not necessarily against extending, but I'm not sure whether we really need to do that right now. I don't completely understand the impact of the depreciation schedule change, except that, are you saying, does that mean that because the equipment is not in service, that the depreciation is not really occurring and therefore that clock ought to be stopped? I don't know whether that's an appropriate way to look at it or not.
So I think in terms of the equipment, by and large, most of the equipment that's on board the vessels, all the fixed pieces of equipment, that's the Steamship Authority already owns that. So the equipment that they have that would be subject to this is, you know, relatively, you know, portable, movable items. So it might be, you know, a pretzel display or something like that.
So it's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's that we're not.
Okay.
Wouldn't anticipate that there'd be. I do see that Steve Guttrow is on the line. I don't know whether he had any comments regarding this or not. So, you know, you put your hand up.
I can bring him over if you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning.
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 The concern of the depreciation, Bob, you're right. The majority of the equipment that we're talking about is already on the vessels and either fully depreciated or is owned by the Steamship Authority.
Okay.
Thanks.
Two right here. Oh. Let's do it.
I know, you know, I've had conversations with Steve and Pete Schooner at Centerplate, and you know, they're in a situation where, you know, most of their staff has been furloughed, or reduced hours. They would like to, you know, provide our customers with services. I know there's, you know, times where we have people that, you know, they need to have something, you know, whether it's a drink to take their medication or food to take as well. So, you know, those are all services that they're still willing to provide. But I think we're going to be looking at shoreside opportunities.
Any further comments or questions? Need a vote, Robert?
Yes, please.
Their motion.
Do we want to split this and set aside the fifth point there?
That'd be a reasonable approach.
Yes, we can certainly do that if that's the member's choice. We can go back and split this if you'd like.
I don't know.
Is that a motion?
I didn't, Kate, I didn't understand what you just said.
That as Bob Davis mentioned when he was introducing the topic, that fifth point about all profits and losses remaining with the authority, perhaps we ought to set that point aside and vote on the other points presented to us.
I totally agree. And we don't need to set it aside. We should just vote it the way it is without that. It can be dissected out of the motion.
Right.
Can someone restate that motion then? Or do you have it, Sean, or whoever's recording?
And if I may, I just don't, I didn't have any discussions with Centerplate as to how intertwined these all are. So I guess I probably should have had that discussion, but.
Well, you can certainly say you brought it to the board and this is what they've come back with. Or would you prefer we not, you have a sense of the board. Do you need a motion or do you want to proceed without it?
Yeah, I'd like to at least proceed on those other 4 items, and then I can have other discussions with Centerplate, and if we have to come back if needed.
Is that acceptable to the board?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you have your talking orders, sir.
I think we require a vote for the first 4 items on that.
So I'll make a motion that we accept the first 4 items as set forth.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Seconded by Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? Hearing none, comes to a vote.
Wilson, aye.
Kearney, aye.
Jones, aye.
Benny, aye.
Malkin, aye. Thank you all.
Thank you. Max up.
Give me just a second to get this done. I had to change the batteries.
Okay.
It's gone a little long.
What's up? Hello again. Want to report on June preliminary financials, which we should be closing out in the next couple of days. For the month of June, passengers were down 45%. Excuse me, we're down 42%, 39.6% on the Vineyard Run, and 52.5% on the Nantucket Run. Vehicles were down, automobiles were down 14.7%, 15.7% on the Martha's Vineyard Run, and 8.6% on the Nantucket Run. Trucks were down 6.5% for the month of June, 6.6% on the Martha's Vineyard Run, and 5.9% on the Nantucket Run. Preliminary revenue numbers, revenue is going to be down about $3.2 million for the month of June, or 23%. Making this up is cars were down about 750,000 or 15%. Trucks were down about 200,000 or 5.8%. Passengers were down 1.7 million or 48%, and parking was down about 375,000 or 40%. Looking for the month of June, we're looking at a net income of about 1.6 million approximately, which originally were forecasted about 4 million on the budget. So we're going to be off about 2.4 million compared to budget, but we will be in the positive for the month of June.
Yay.
And cash flow was positive in June as well on our operating revenues and expenses. That was a question that was asked in the Port Council. Then I wanted to follow up, as mentioned by Ed earlier in the meeting, that the annual audit was completed and finalized on June 30th. It's been posted on our website. We're looking to have a public meeting with our auditors, RSM, next week to go over the results of the audit. At all things being said and done for the year, we had a net income of $113,147. And so as soon as we get the date finalized for next week, we'll let everyone know.
Okay.
Well, I guess one thing that Mark didn't touch on is that, you know, what these projections, now that we have, you know, 5 months in the on the books and the 6 month we're wrapping up, start looking at some of the projections, and if we're able to extend out what the traffic levels are now through the end of the year, if we end up having, you know, variation where you start to see a dip in some of these traffic numbers. So, you know, the models are, you know, we could have hundreds of thousands of different models here as to what, but I think we're looking at is somewhere in the area of, on average, we're looking at about between $20 and $25 million operating deficit here at the end of the year. Then you take from that the CARES Act funds. So that's where we're at.
Oh, 25, 26.
25, 26.
Looking about 12 or 13 after the CARES Act, if everything, the traffic numbers we're realizing for the last 30 days cascade through the end of the year.
I'm trying to be more optimistic.
You're muted, Jim.
You're muted.
Mr. Jones,
Thank you.
sorry.
I even lost my train of thought after that one. Bob, were those from cash flow wise between now and the end of the year, do you anticipate that we're going to have to go into the line of credit?
No, I think the last version of the cash flow that I'd seen, it looks like we'll get to the end of the year. The balances, however, will be probably about 2/3 of what we normally would expect to be going into the next year with. So that will, you know, compound the problem going forward. So you know, we'll be looking at that, and that projection also does not include the transfers that we'll be needing to make here to the sinking fund for our debt services that it's due in March. So we have the monies right now for the debt interest that we have to pay in September, but we still need to transfer more to the sinking fund to pay for those March payments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Mark before he gets all his papers together? No? Okay, onward.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, so next item under procurement, looking for a vote to authorize the general manager to dispose of surplus property in accordance with terms and conditions of our procurement policy. So we do this periodically where we end up, you know, compiling materials that are no longer of use to the authority. We've last few times we've done this, we've done it via Gov Deal auction, in which is, the items are listed on there. They're placed out to bid, and we've been successful in getting some money for items that we no longer need. The biggest items that we have right now is there's a couple buses. So we have 4 shuttle buses that we have for our Hyannis services that are CNG buses. Back in February, the one CNG filling station on the Cape, which is located off White's Path in Yarmouth, closed without notice, and they had no intent on reopening. So the closest location to refill those buses is in Taunton, and so those buses have been brought to our bus garage and been sitting there, and we recently had an appraisal done on those buses, and the appraisal came back that those buses are valued about just over $70,000 between the four of them. We had some discussions with people at MassDOT, and they put us in touch with one of the regional transportation authorities that utilizes a fleet of CNG buses. So we talked with them, sent them some pictures. They came down, took a look at the buses. They're interested in the buses. So what we want to do is to go back to them with this appraisal and have them, we can do an intergovernmental transaction. We're working out the particulars of how that works, but as an intergovernmental transaction, that's a ability that we have under the procurement policy. So those buses are on the books for just over $90,000, however, so it's one way or the other, we're going to be taking a loss. And then the question becomes is, what value do they have to them in the condition that they're in? So, but we want to go ahead and pursue that if the members so choose for us to be doing so. There's four other of the bigger buses that we have that the evaluation of those is that they're upwards of, some of them are upwards of 15 years old at this point, that to repair those vehicles, to put them back into service, exceeds the value of those buses. So we're planning on putting those in the auction as well. So if the board, in terms of this, wants to for us to continue to pursue disposal of these those CNG buses and the like, and looking for some direction there.
Any members have any questions or comments on the disposal issue of the property?
I will say that the Port Council at their meeting did vote to recommend that the members authorize us to arrange for the disposal of this surplus property.
Is there a motion to do so?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Rainey. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Comes to a vote.
Wilson,
Jones,
aye.
aye.
Randy, aye.
Wilson, Jones, Rainey, aye. Malkin, aye. As a matter of form, I don't see anyone in Moira's office.
I'll reflect in the minutes that she wasn't present for the vote.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on.
And that's it for me.
All right. Well, at this point, shall I read the?
Can I ask one question?
Yep, of course.
On the bid summary for contracts and purchase orders under 25,000 and over, what's the house doctor professional services under DHK Architects?
Yeah, so under the DCAM, we have to have, there's a house doctors, there's four of them that have been previously approved, in which if we have any project that requires DCAM review, and that they have to do the work for us, and their rates. So in this case, I'm sorry, I drew a blank there for a second. The Vineyard Haven terminal, the HVAC and boiler system needs to be replaced. So this is for them to design and to prepare the bid documents to go out to bid to replace the HVA system at the Vineyard Haven terminal.
So is house doctor a term that I'm just not familiar with? It's not a medical doctor, it's a,
Yeah, that's how DCAM refers to him as house
Gotcha.
doctor.
thank you.
I did have one other thing. I was remiss that earlier I should have brought it under the COVID. This morning I received a letter from the Dukes County Commissioners requesting that the Steamship Authority enact a mandatory mask order for all vessels and terminals and public areas at the Steamship Authority. So, we're following the governor's orders in this regard.
If I may, I also received a copy of that, and I sent to the Dukes County Commission the letters that our port captain wrote and Allison Fletcher wrote, instructing our staff in terms of what to do, and reiterated that we will continue to follow the governor's instructions and advisories as we go forward. Which this goes back to my original question earlier in terms of whether we have prevented people from boarding the buses or the vessels if they are not wearing masks.
At this point, I'm not aware of any of those instances, so, but I'll look into it.
Thank you.
On the vessels themselves, actually, if they don't have a mask, we request that they go to the outside weather decks. So it's really a question of the buses.
This is a tough issue. It's for all of our communities nationwide as well as here. The issue of enforcement. And I think Sean Driscoll said it best in a quote that he gave to one of the newspapers where he said, sometimes you just can't prevent people from acting like 5-year-olds. Where people will put on a mask and then as soon as our staff walks away, they take it off again.
Could you send a copy of that? Could I see a copy of that letter when you get a chance?
I noticed it this morning in my spam folder, so I'll send it out to the board today.
Thanks.
I just wanted to bring it up to make note that we did receive it.
Okay.
I will send to Bob the letter that I sent back to them, and Bob, if you'll distribute that to the members as well, that'd be appreciated.
Okay.
Anything further? Mr. Jones, you had said you wanted to discuss something?
Yes. I've been a little concerned about going back to, a public hearing on the schedule. And I'm trying to pick my words, I guess. But the fact in the first, the request for the public hearing basically stated that they wanted to withhold that hearing or action on the hearing, I guess more appropriately, until these vineyard, the combined working group and also the long range planning group had taken action. Well, when we received that, these groups had not been even consummated yet. So my first question is, what power does this group have? I mean, it obviously has some sort of political power that we've held off in acting on the hearing. We had the hearing according to the Enabling Act and stuff, and Steve was the he conducted the hearing. And one of the things that happened at the hearing, which shocked me, was Steve said that this group here is going to be going to I think the DOT for traffic speed limits and problems on Woods Hole Road. And all of a sudden, red flags are going up here, and I'm saying, what authority do we have to go to the DOT, the steamship authority? I mean, we're a steamship authority, not a traffic authority. And so questions kept popping up in my mind. So I started doing a little homework, just like you did, Jim, going back and reading the enabling legislation and reading bylaws and whatever as to what this group is and what standing do they have and what standing have we as a board given them. Well, I went back to the original motion that we voted back, and it was October 15th of last year. And, as of the hearing, nothing has happened. As I say, the group hadn't been populated or anything else, but yet we, curtailed the talk and the action on the hearing. So with that, I also went into the open meeting laws. And this was really on a conversation I had had with our former general counsel early on about the open meeting laws and who was susceptible to the open meeting laws, and public bodies are susceptible to the open meeting laws. And by definition of the body we created, they are, as I see it anyways, subject to the open meeting laws, which means, they have to register with their towns, they have to be sworn in, there should be meetings, they're posted meetings, and the list goes on, and they also enjoy the same gag order we have about, talking when we're not in session. So in any event, I also started coming up with questions in my own mind what relationship does the authority have in conducting these meetings? Are we conducting the meetings? We're paying evidently a general counsel to run these meetings? And it just seems like, for myself, I need a definition of exactly the four corners of what this group is. I don't question their mission, and I think it's healthy, as I said before, for communities to get together and talk about their mutual problems. But I, for one, thought when we passed that it was more of a casual type of group sitting around, maybe a table with a cup of coffee and trying to discuss and work out, perhaps and suggest mutual problems. But now I find we created a public body under the open meeting laws. So I didn't know that when we started. I don't know if management knew that when they started. I don't know if it makes a difference. But the fact of the matter is, I would just like something in writing of the scale and scope of what the group is, what our responsibilities are. I can see coming back to us, I think, and I've said this before because I was concerned about this group, how it affects us as a body, as a governing body of the authority. Do we have to wait every time we do legislation for somebody to say, well, we want to discuss that before you go forward? We do have a port council, and port councils, naturally are, advisory board, appointed by the same authority that appointed, you and I from our respective towns. So anyways, I'm throwing a whole lot of stuff in here because I really would like to have a clear-cut definition of what this body is, what its mission statement is, what authorities it has. I went back and read, after doing all of this, the report of the previous hearing last year. And that's when all of this came up with the report that Steve or we voted on and agreed to after the public hearing. So, as a matter of fact, I even printed out a few of the things, and it has 2 or 3 specific points of what will be happening with this body. But anyways, I don't know if I'm making it clear. If I sound a little bit confused, it's because I am. And I just think it will make, at least for me, to be able to read, a statement as to exactly the role of this group. The fact that it is, I don't know if anybody knew prior to this that this would be subject to the open meeting law, and I still ask that question. So that's the long and the short of it. But it did hold up legislation, and that concerned me. We should have been voting on that today. I know the general manager said that Steve hasn't done, we've finished the review of that. However, I can tell you this, I know Steve, and he's one of the most efficient people I know. I'm sure he knew that we would be taking this up. I take that explanation at just point value, but the fact of the matter is that I think that should have been up for us to review today. And then when all of this was brought up, there was a scurry to go to the islands and towns that hadn't responded to this. And it wasn't the fact of the virus which was met. This was October 15th. Plenty of time, even through the virus, to have populated this group. So this, I don't believe, is a mandatory body, but it seems to me that it is now an official body under the wing of the Steamship Authority. So if all of that can be clarified to me, I'd be certainly appreciative. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Catherine, you put your hand up.
Yeah, Bob, I agree with you. And it was last October when we created these things. And Steve has been very careful. I've been to these meetings. Steve's been very careful to mind all the open meeting law compliance requirements every time that a meeting occurs. But he or Terrence would be able to speak more to that, I think. The Falmouth has been to every one of these meetings. And it was only until this month, or not until this month, that the Vineyard appointed anyone to represent the island. And it's unfortunate. So far, to my opinion, we keep being asked about this 30-minute difference between the 5:30 boat and the 6 o'clock freight boat based on anecdotal discussion. And whoever has the best narrative ends up sort of swaying the vote. And I would like to see the Vineyard come to the table with an open mind and not just draw conclusions, for example, that Hui trucks are just as much a problem as trucks bound for the Steamship Authority. I contacted our Port Council rep who checked at Hui and said that's really not the case. Once they moved out to the Quistit campus, the truck traffic has been very static except for specific instances, but that in his opinion, HUI and MBL don't factor into that equation. So my point is, I'd like to make our decision based on facts rather than anecdotal and, you know, stories about what people need or think they need and that kind of thing. I think that would make a lot of sense.
Okay, I'd go back to Bob's point. I've spoken and met virtually with the representatives chosen for this task force and working group from the Martha's Vineyard Commission and the representative from Tisbury. And the same question came up with each of these conversations, and the question was, what is the group's charter? What is it expected to deliver, and what's the time frame to do it? And I had no answers for that. And I share the concerns that Bob raised, which is, you know, what are the parameters of these groups? To what extent do these groups impact the authority that this board has? And essentially, how is this actually going to work? Is this a discussion group, as Bob suggested, where people look together and find commonalities of interest and define those and look for ways of going forward? Or is it a more formal group that requires attendance and meetings and notifications and appropriate rules of order? So it would be very helpful for me to inform the people who've been appointed to these boards in a brief document. Here's your charter. Here's what you're expected to do or authorized to do by the board, this board creating those groups. And here's what we're looking for from you. But again, to the points that were raised earlier, you know, this is relatively new to me, and I was not here at the genesis of these groups.
Jim, can I?
Sure.
I'm sorry. Are you finished, Jim?
I am finished
Okay.
with this. Yes, Terrence, thank you.
I just want to add a little bit to the conversation because I do have some other information. So back in October, shortly after the board had this discussion and vote, I did reach out to the Division of Open Government at the AG's office, and I wrote a letter. And at that time, I took the position that this group wasn't subject to the open meeting law, and I spelled out my argument and so forth. Then for a period of time, I didn't hear anything. Quite frankly, with the advent of the COVID, like everything else, it got put on the back burner. And then the most recent interest in the group and kind of the beginning of the summer season, if you will, with the steamship, we had more activity because of the reinstitution of the 5:30 trip from Woods Hole to the Vineyard, and some discussions I had with Steve about where we were and some of these same questions that you folks have right now. I had that discussion with him. And so then I made further inquiry with the Attorney General's office. And actually within the past week, I don't have the date, but I did get a letter response from the Division of Open Government and a letter, and I'll certainly forward the response that I received to you folks to take a look at. But the long or the short of it is, the determination is that this particular task force this task force and working group are public bodies, as the esteemed Mr. Jones has pointed out, and therefore the group is subject to the open meeting law's requirements. And I do have that opinion, and so just wanted to add that to the discussion, and I'll be able to share that with the board. But I can't remember whether I got it. I think I got it sometime mid last week, and I've since shared it with Steve and Bob, and so we've advised Steve that, and he's always, as Kate has said, that he's been operating under this idea that it's subject to the open meeting law. And that's been kind of a holdup with the whole process because they haven't been able to successfully establish a quorum in order to conduct meetings.
Mhm.
So if you don't have a quorum, you can't have a meeting. So you're really kind of just stuck in the mud there. So that's the status from my point right now. I think from some of the feedback that Bob and I have gotten from Steve, some of these questions will actually be answered by the task force at their initial meetings. And so they'll develop kind of their agenda and their within the parameters that the board has set, or at least the board and the towns have come together and tried to talk about and try to address these issues about noise and traffic and 5:30 trips and what have you. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that before, since we're all together right now. And like I said, I'll send an email out to all of you so that you can have a copy of these letters. Thank you. Any questions about that?
Thank you.
I still have, sorry, thank you for that, Terrence. I still have the same question, which is, what is the charter of these groups? What power do they have? What power do they not have? Is the board giving up its discretion and its authority as vested in it by the bylaws to these groups? And are they looking for, what is the deliverable? And I think it would help the groups to know what their authority is, what the deliverable is, and what's their charter. And I basically think that it would help us and help them to know those things.
So
I'll leave that with whomever's working on this, from my point of view.
we'll put together and provide the information that everyone's looking for. But I will say that in terms of it, the board does ultimately have the power. You're the authority members. So this is an advisory group, advisory body.
Yeah.
Is what these groups are. So you're not bound by anything that they recommend.
Information gathering and advisory, and being able to develop a dialogue. I mean, basically, right, the issues we're talking about have to do with, the Woods Hole and the Vineyard relationship, and identifying what the impact is for each of the other one, based on, what's going on with whether it's freight or, all the different issues. So it's really a platform for us to have a conversation about the issues that are affecting our communities.
Well, if that's, sorry, Bob, just a second. If that's the case, Catherine, then it seems to me that this is more of a round the table with a cup of coffee conversation than a full press open meeting. But that would be my
I don't know that we
observation.
have the option to do it any other way.
Nor do I. Bob?
Yeah, Jim, you just took the words out of my mouth. Should we make this a more casual ad hoc group? Once it comes under we have orchestrated this, we have populated this, we have done all the things, so we've created another committee, within under the wing of the Steamship Authority, in the same fashion as the Port Council. And the question is, should we go back and try put the whole thing together? But the towns that are being represented on the board take control of their own destiny and what they want to talk about and whatever, without our involvement. We can go to the meetings as, for, opinions and things of this nature, or what they can do and what they can't do and things like that. In other words, should we take it out of the formality, or does it matter? I don't know if it matters. I think it matters more to the participants than necessarily us.
Terrence, do we even have that option? I mean, if we develop a working group, do we have the option of selecting whether it's subject to open meeting or not?
No, it's determined by the statute, as you know,
Yeah.
Kate. I mean, and that was the argument. The argument, as you know, we as lawyers argue about what language means and how the statute should be interpreted. That was kind of the given back and forth that I had with the AG's office. And at the end of the day, they provided me with some other determinations that they've had in the past on the open meeting law. And I think their opinion is well-founded in that this particular, because again, some of these decisions in the past have been talking about exactly what we're talking about here, which is task force and work groups. When communities come together to address common problems and common issues, and again, I think quite frankly, I think the open meeting law is exactly what it was created just for this purpose.
Yeah.
And so everything has to be done out in public. It has to be done in a transparent way. And again, I think as Bob alluded to and talked about, I think at the end of the day, these folks can come together, talk about these issues, have these discussions, and then make their recommendations and discuss, and have these ongoing discussions and recommendations to the board as to how to deal with these specific problems, which again are traffic, noise, 5:30 trip, this kind of stuff. And, I think it's kind of the evolution of the process. I think as Jim said earlier today, I mean, this issue has been talked about for the past, 20, 25 years, since 1995. So, perhaps this iteration of discussion will try to move the situation along to a point of conclusion. I don't know, but that's the hope, I think. So.
Yep.
Mr. Jones.
Just to read, I printed out several things, but the important thing, this here is the report on the hearing that we had last year, and was October 15th. But anyways, it lists, according to this task force and all of the rest of the stuff. Number 4 is the Steamship Authority will provide reasonable administrative support for the task force while requests for more substantial financial support for hiring any consultants, surveys, or other special expenses will be considered on a case-by-case basis. That's just one of the whole thing. So I'm still, that to me says this is more of a formal body than what I thought I was voting on back at the time. But in any event, I'm willing to, let it sit at this point here and do your due diligence, get us some information on what we should expect. And you also, have to disseminate this to the people who have signed up on this so they know what's going on. So other than that, Mr. Chairman, I'm through.
Thank you. I think this has been a helpful discussion. Anybody want to add anything to this? Or we pretty much run through it? Okay, at this point, Bob, we want to go into executive session before I read the...
Public
We
comment.
need to do public comment.
Oh, yeah, but thank you. But when we go into executive session, are we coming back to open session or not?
No, we are not.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Braithwaite's had his hand up for quite a while, so I'll bring him over. Go ahead, Leon. Leon, are you there? Leon. Okay, I'll try him again in a minute. Mr. Salzberg.
Hi, good afternoon. Couple questions for Mr. Rosen, couple questions for Mr. Munson, if you please.
Mark stuffed the room, so.
Which Mark?
Rosen.
Well, I see Mr. Munson, so I'll start there.
Good morning again.
Hey, good morning. Good afternoon, excuse me. Sir, could you explain the recent crack or fissure that occurred in the MV INO, how it may have occurred, and how you might hope to remedy that crack?
Yeah, the crack was in the jet room, and it was in an area that was recently done over the winter's period. The attachment of the #1 frame to this side shell was not an external crack of the shell. It is still further under investigation, and we're performing a root cause analysis on it at present.
Understood. Thank you. Concerning the mesh barriers that serve to screen off the fronts of the freight boats like the Gayhead, the Katama, and the Sankaty, could you explain what the technical name is for those, and how they're inspected at the Steamship Authority level and how they're inspected at the Coast Guard level?
The name for them is a net, and it's to bridge. Excuse me. It's a net, and it's to bridge the vessel to the bridge. They're inspected by our captains and port captains.
Does the Coast Guard inspect them as well?
I'm unaware. I don't believe they do.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to try Mr. Braithwaite again real quick.
Can you hear me now?
I can, Leon. Go ahead. Sorry about
Great.
that.
Okay, I had a couple of points. One was with respect to the solar array system at the parking lot. I know that Barnstable Airport installed it. I know the town of Tisbury installed a pretty big one here on the island. I know the town of West Tisbury did. And I think that we should look at, or you could look at how they went about it, but I know they did not hire high-end consultants to come in. Everybody was coming to them to ask them if they could put it up, and then the town would receive the benefits from it. So I just say that to say that I would explore those avenues before I went with a consultant. On the second piece, the committee that we're talking about with respect to the committees that were established, and I'm a member of one of them myself, I think that the board would need to define them as advisory committees. Because once you define the role as an advisory committee, they have specific duties that they can do. They can collect stuff, they can bring unique knowledge to the project, but they give it back to the board to make decisions. So they're not necessarily a. That's Alexa hopping on the call without me even speaking to her. So an effective advisory committee would have terms, the members are appointed for specific terms, and their purpose is guidelines of membership and how the advisor contributes the knowledge to the largest board. So I do think that one of the things that needs to happen so that we can get moving forward is that the Steamship Authority should define clearly what they want us to look at initially, whether it's the traffic issue, morning boat rides or whatever. But I think if we have a specific thing to look at, then we can sit down and talk about that. And it did say in the middle of this that the, oh God, I just downloaded this off the internet, and it's a very good, and I'll forward it over to you guys, to Bob to distribute. And it also talks about the advisory committee plays an important role in public relations, as well as providing program staff with a fresh perspective on programmatic issues. So I see myself as a member of an advisory committee helping work for the board. I rest
That's
my
helpful.
case.
Is there any more people wish to make comments? Sean? Sean, anybody else looking to make public comment?
Oh, sorry, I was muted, and now Bob Morris should be unmuted. Bob, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, a couple of points. Mr. Malcolm asked Bill Cloutier about the schedule and the budget on the terminal project. And he got an answer, I think, on the schedule, at least there was a comment on it. And then, but on the budget, the response was about the source of the funds, but not the value of the funds. And so I guess to me, that was one of the more important questions asked today. Where is this project on budget? And let me go around the back door to something else. On the solar project, I think that I hope that this isn't just a way of holding on to what may be now unproductive assets. I don't think that you should be holding on to an asset like that land if the only productivity is a solar project. And that said, I certainly don't think that you should be allowing somebody who's got a horse in the race to analyze and do pro formas on the project. If you're going to analyze it, go outside. And that gets me back to the original point of, I asked Mr. Sayers quite a while ago about feasibility study on the terminal project in Woods Hole. And he directed me to the website. And when I go to the website, I see that the feasibility study was based on a cost of $60 million. And I wonder if there's been an update to that feasibility study. And by the way, the feasibility study was performed by the architect who had a horse in the race. So, you know, learn from past errors, at least. The other thing is, I'd say that I've made some of the meetings of the, call it advisory committee on traffic. And I think that Steamship has been paying Mr. Sayers for 6 or 8 months to facilitate or chair those meetings. So it's kind of strange that it's coming up all of a sudden now. Anyway, take my comments in good faith, and thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Sean?
Well, Mr. Salzberg indicated he had another question, so in spirit of my generosity, I'll bring him over again for a second.
He's testing our forbearance.
Yes, at 2 hours and 38 minutes. Make it quick, Mr. Salzberg.
Will do. This question is for Mr. Davis. I was just wondering if you could explain what underpins the $25 to $26 million estimate for the year-end deficit at present. What calculations were made to arrive at that, roughly?
Well, as I mentioned, we have 5 months of actual. We have 6 months. The 6th June is, nearly completed here from a financial standpoint. So that's going to be a pretty good number there. And then we just using different models, we extend the traffic levels as they are right now through the end of the year. We do variations of that traffic, and where do we come up? What those numbers look like.
Could you articulate like what type of models you're using, sir?
We take our operating budget and we adjusted the traffic the traffic levels in terms of what percentages that we're seeing. We go back and we've looked at some of the expenses in terms of making some adjustments on some of the expenses. For instance, fuel costs are below where we had budgeted. So we factor a number of items in. But again, you could have a million different models, and which one is going to be the crystal ball one is anyone's guess.
Sure, sure. If you forgive me, you selected this one though. What or this combination of them? What gave you the sort of the comfortable feeling that this might be the appropriate model or set of models to work with, if I may.
Again, looking at what traffic levels we have now, I mean, vehicle-wise, there isn't much of an opportunity for it to be going up much more. And so it's really dependent upon the passengers. And again, during these summer months, we make 55, 60% of our revenues are generated in these, June, July, August, September. And once you factor that in, there's, starts to become a clearer picture.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's it, Sean?
Yes, sir, that is it.
Thank you, sir. All right, at this point, I'd entertain a motion to close this meeting and to go into executive session. Shall I read the memorandum outlining the executive session?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to go into executive session for the authority meeting on the 21st. We'll have the approval of minutes, the minutes of the authority's May 12 meeting in executive session. And item number 2 would be anticipated negotiation with the Teamsters Local 59, SEIU Local 888, and the MEBA of all the authority's non-representative employees regarding the potential continuation of health insurance benefits of furloughed employees due to COVID-19 virus pandemic. We will not be returning into open session, and we will conclude at the end of the executive session. Do I have a motion to move into executive session, please?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Okay.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. I suspect there's no discussion. All in favor?
Wilson, I.
Jones, aye.
Andy, aye.
Malkin, aye. Moira is not present for the vote, but we can move into executive session now. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, if you can all sign out of the webinar and then in about 2 to 3 minutes, sign back in again so we can have the session to ourselves.
That's good.
We'll see
It's gonna
you
be a very
shortly.
quick lunch.
Yes.
Okay.
Do everything you need to do very quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe you'll stay here, maybe you won't.